The last measure of the center that I want to go over today is called the mid-range. Now this particular measure of the center is not in your textbook, so it is important that you get this information from the video. So the last measurement that we're going over today is called the mid-range. This mid-range is a calculation that is done by taking the maximum value plus the minimum value and dividing by 2. It's a pretty easy calculation. It's a pretty quick calculation. The disadvantage to using the mid-range is that it is very sensitive to extreme values because you're only using the extreme values. The advantage to using the mid-range is that it's very easy to calculate. It is also an easy value to reinforce the center value, especially if the median is not giving you a good quality value. Okay, here is a particular example. In 2006, the New York Yankees had a large budget to pay their players. $194,666,100. They had the highest budget in the league, while the Florida Marlins had the lowest budget. $14,998,500 to pay their players. So we want to find the mid-range for the league. So in order to do it, we would take the highest plus the lowest and divide it by 2. And that gives us the mid-range. So again, a very, very easy calculation to do. Now, let's go over a particular problem where we do all these calculations with one problem. So let's look at this problem where we're looking at calories. If we were participating in fencing, we would use 300 calories. If we were square dancing, we would use 350 calories. If we were playing golf, we would use 250 calories. If we were playing squash, we would use 600 calories. If we were running, we would use 900 calories. If we were swimming, we would use 300 calories. If we were just sitting, we would use 100 calories. If we were playing volleyball, we would use 350 calories. If we are standing, we use 150 calories. If we were chopping wood, we would use 400 calories. So knowing that these activities use these particular amounts of calories, we want to find each of the four measures of the center that we've been talking about. So first, let's find the mean. And this is just from a sample. So we're going to find the sample mean. So we would add all of these up and divide by the number of items. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 items. So we should find that mean to be 370. The median, we would arrange the items in order and find the item that would be in the middle. So we would use the 5th and 6th item and find the average of those two. And so that should give us 325 for the median. The mode would be the item that occurred most often. And there are two items that occur the same number of times. And that would be 300 and 350. So there are two modes, or it is bimodal. And then the mid-range is the highest item plus the lowest item divided by 2. And so the mid-range turns out to be 500. And you can see from this set of answers that that mid-range is not very effective. It doesn't really sit in the middle as much as the others do. They give us more truer values of the middle than that mid-range does in this particular set of data. And that's one of the disadvantages of the mid-range. So it is important to think about the answers that you get when you are calculating these mid-range. So you want to think about your results. Are they reasonable amounts? Are they feasible to use? Do they fit in with your data set? Are they in the range of your data? So it is important to think about your results. Are they reasonable? Are they within your range of your data? Are they reliable? Another thing to think about is the methods that were used to collect the data. We've talked about that from our last lesson, whether it was reliable or not, and that does affect your calculations. If the method to obtain the data was unreliable, then it makes your calculations unreliable. So these are things that we have to think about as well when we're doing our calculations. So that data collection is important, not just in terms of how valid the studies are, but in our data collection. If the data was not collected in a reliable method, it affects the values that we get as being reliable or not. And then we have to think about how to choose which of those measurements is the best measure of the center. Sometimes it may be just one of the items. Sometimes it may be more than one that is the best measure of the center. And that sometimes is hard to see. Sometimes it's not so easy to see, I should say. Let me give you another example to look at when you're thinking about that in terms of what is the best measurement to use. At a manufacturing center, we have salaries of the following: 19,700, 20,400, 21,000, 22,000, 23,000. All of these are relatively in line, but then we had a manager salary of 95,000. Now what do you think that's going to do to the measurement of the center? It is an extreme value. It's going to throw that measurement of the center off. So if we were finding the median for this set of data, we would have 22,050. If we were finding the mean of this set of data, it would be 33,700. Which measurement of the center would be the best to use? And sometimes it kind of depends on what you're trying to show. If you're just trying to show the center of the data, the mean is the best choice. If you're trying to show that you're wanting the salaries to be near the same range, and you don't want these other people to know that this manager is making a whole lot, you might use the median. If you're wanting to show that you're keeping the budget down to your supervisors, you might want to choose the median. So again, sometimes it might be your audience. Who are you giving this information to on why you might select a particular measure of the center? So those are different things to consider when you think about statistics, and that's why you hear that age-old saying about statistics are used to lie with, and that's because it's a valid calculation, but it's used to misrepresent what the data actually is saying. So these are things to keep in mind about using measures of the center.